Now for Proverbs 21, the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord, as the rivers of water. He turneth it whithersoever he will. Now once again, as I've mentioned before about how this is a very general rule of reality, this isn't saying how every single thing that the king does, because we know kings that are just abominable. But just like whenever we read in Exodus about how Pharaoh hardened his own heart, and then we read about how God hardened Pharaoh's heart, we see how things play out. It's free will and the Lord's will mingled together in this reality. Ultimately, someone, even kings, will wind up exactly where the Lord actually wants them, given whatever path that they choose. Every way of a man is right in his own eyes, but the Lord pondereth the hearts. To do justice and judgment is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice. Right here we read, in the Old Testament, to do justice and judgment is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice. He says over and over in the Old Testament, I am not pleased with your rams and your bulls. You can sacrifice all the day long, and you do not have the Lord's pleasure. A high look and a proud heart, and the plowing of the wicked is sin. And this plowing of the wicked is a general statement for all their works, just as Ellicott noted, in essence their work, all they do, for it is not done to please God but themselves, nor carried on in his strength but in reliance upon their own, and therefore it is sin, not pleasing to him. Verse 5, the thoughts of the diligent tend only to plenteousness, but of every one that is hasty only to want. That is a proverb saying, think before you act. Those in whom are hasty, they rush in without thinking, they'll wind up with very little. The getting of treasures by a lying tongue is a vanity tossed to and fro of them that seek death. And this vanity right here points toward that of vapor. The getting of treasures by a lying tongue is vapor. Those treasures quickly go away. You'll quickly find out that it leads to death. Verse 7, the robbery of the wicked shall destroy them, because they refuse to do judgment. Now this is talking about the wicked robbing the poor, or robbing those in whom are innocent, even if they're well off. The way of man is froward and strange, but as for the pure, his work is right. And now for the verse that is probably one of the most quoted by all men whom are married. It is better to dwell in a corner of the housetop than with a brawling woman in a wide house. Now, in order to get a better understanding of what's being said right here, in more details that is, we'd have to go all the way back to the time of Solomon. Just as Pulpit noted, this would have been what one of the houses, one of the common homes looked like, had a flat roof. The proverb implies a position abnormally inconvenient. Though certain activities were performed on the roof, even such things as exercise, prayer even, it wasn't the place in which you would want to go all the time. It was sort of inconvenient as an alternative, preferable to a residence inside. The soul of the wicked desireth evil. His neighbor findeth no favor in his eyes. When the scorner is punished, the simple is made wise. And when the wise is instructed, he receiveth knowledge. And what verse 11 is mainly pointing towards is that whenever people see that wicked men are punished and justice is actually done in the land, then they'll want to choose a different path. They say, well, I don't want to be punished like that, so they pick the better path. Verse 12, the righteous man wisely considereth the house of the wicked, but God overthroweth the wicked for their wickedness. Now that can confuse a lot of people. I think that we have to go back to the Hebrew in order to understand this word considereth. The righteous man wisely considereth the house of the wicked, but God overthrows the wicked. And the Hebrew word, as we find, is sokal. Alternative words could be understand, consider, or prosper. And that's what some of the commentators believe that this may mean. The righteous man wisely understands the house of the wicked or prospers the house of the wicked, much like Joseph did Potiphar and Jacob did Laban. But God ultimately will overthrow the wicked for their wickedness, but he may use wicked men in order to employ you for a time. Verse 13, whoso stoppeth his ears at the cry of the poor, he also shall cry himself, but shall not be heard. A gift in secret pacifieth anger, and a reward in the bosom strong wrath. Now this gift, once again, it either means an actual loving gift, a caring gift, much like what Jacob did for Esau. Such an offering appeaseth strong wrath, even. It is joy to the just to do judgment, but destruction shall be to the workers of iniquity. The man that wandereth out of the way of understanding shall remain in the congregation of the dead. Now notice the slight nuance in this verse. It's not just talking about a man who's lacking understanding, but a man who wandereth out of the way of understanding shall remain in the congregation of the dead. Matthew Henry commented, of all wanderers in the ways of sin, those are in the most dangerous condition who turn aside into the ways of darkness. They've heard the gospel over and over and over again, yet they still choose the evil path. Verse 17, he that loveth pleasure shall be a poor man. He that loveth wine and oil shall not be rich. The wicked shall be a ransom for the righteous, and the transgressor for the upright. Verse 19, and Solomon, he may have been in quite a few disputes with some of his wives or concubines back then, because this is the second time that he's talked about angry, brawling women. It is better to dwell in the wilderness than with a contentious and an angry woman. I know many men that every day they'll go out into the woods and leave their wife inside. Just if she wants to get mad at something, let her get mad at anything. An inanimate object is better than my hurt feelings. But in all seriousness, though we do often joke about such verses, and then women, they kind of laugh it off and everything, I agree totally with Matthew Henry. Unbridled passions, anger that you cannot seem to get a grip on or control, spoil the comfort of all relations. No one wants to be around someone that's angry all the time. It becomes so burdensome to even be in the presence of certain people like that. And of course, this goes for both men and women, but Scripture even goes on to tell us how anger resteth in the bosom of fools. There is treasure to be desired, and oil in the dwelling of the wise. Treasure to be desired. But a foolish man spendeth it up. Now, such is a note about conservation. If you just get paid, don't go out and just spend it all on frivolous things. He that followeth after righteousness and mercy findeth life, righteousness, and honor. A wise man scaleth the city of the mighty, and casteth down the strength of the confidence thereof. Even the mightiest kingdoms a wise man is greater than. Whoso keepeth his mouth and his tongue keepeth his soul from troubles. Proud and haughty scorner is his name, who dealeth in proud wrath. The desire of the slothful or the lazy killeth him, because all he desires is to sleep. For his hands refuse to labor. He coveteth greedily all the day long, but the righteous giveth and spareth not. Which is, of course, a warning against being greedy. If you have the means, help others with what you've been blessed with. Bless others. It is better to give than to receive. The sacrifice of the wicked is abomination. How much more when he bringeth it with a wicked mind? And once again, that's talking about the animal sacrifices back then. But today you can easily apply this to those in whom tithe, as we call it, or give love offerings on the Lord's Day and such. But if you bring that with a wicked mind, hate filled in your heart, and you just feel like, well, I want the Lord to not be angry with me. He's already angry with you. Such is an abomination. Go get right and do right with whatever is wicked in your life. Stop doing that. Your money will profit you nothing. It'll profit you nothing. A false witness shall perish, someone in who lies against another in court. But the man that heareth speaketh constantly. And the thing in which the other man, the one that heareth, what he is hearing is the evidence in court, the voice of conscience, the voice of duty. He's actually wanting to do right, and he goes on and speaketh constantly, whereas the false witness perishes, the other will be alive and remain to speak again. A wicked man hardeneth his face, but as for the upright, he directeth his way. And what does this hardening of the face mean? It means that they are insensible to rebuke. They refuse to be corrected, and will not confess himself in the wrong. But the upright directeth his way, as God would have him, or looks well to it, sees that it is in accordance with his commandments. He's willing to do right, even if it's him admitting his own wrong, or receiving reproof. Now for verse 30. There is no wisdom, nor understanding, nor counsel against the Lord. And that's a very frightening verse for all those in whom are going to stand condemned before him at the great white throne judgment. That means that you cannot get out of it. If you are guilty, you are guilty. There is no scheming your way like you've done all of your life. There's no trying to massage your way past his judgment. There's no wisdom or knowledge or understanding apart from God. Now for verse 31, the final verse. The horse is prepared against the day of battle, but safety is of the Lord. Meaning, do not trust in the inventions of man, things that you have set up. You may think that you have the best of medicine to live another 20 or 30 years. You may think that you have enough money to pay for the best hospitals or whatever. You could go that very night. Safety is of the Lord.